Hello, welcome to the latest episode of It's All Gone South podcast. Got a very special guest today because we're going to talk about Southend. Chris Phillips, thanks for joining us.
No, not a problem. Thank you very much for inviting me on. Always had a soft spot for Torquay down the years. So looking forward to exchanging a few stories.
Yeah, so I also got Clive as well, and we're just going to talk about
Oh, yeah.
Southend. Obviously, as everyone's aware, Torquay have been through quite a lot of ups and downs, many downs and finally some ups. But Southend, I mean, from an outsider's point of view, I mean, what a journey. I mean, first of all, Chris, introduce yourself, your sort of background with Southend and your media and all stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's quite scary now. I'm almost becoming veteran status. So Southend's my team. I've been watching Southend since I was 7. I had a season ticket, and my dad still got his season ticket. So it's a big part of our family, irrespective of my job. So yeah, I've been the Southend United sports reporter for 21 years at the Southend Echo, and before that, I worked for the club a couple of years as well in a sort of a media capacity. So yeah, getting into old age now, but still really enjoying it, and feel honoured to cover my hometown club and the club that I grew up supporting pretty much every week. So it's been very tough, but fingers crossed we're through it now and we can start worrying just about football again and then moaning about things that normally you just have to moan about as a football fan, not anything else, and nothing that's a lot more serious and sinister, which no football club and no football fan should ever really have to go through.
I agree. I mean, we'll get to that bit in a minute, but obviously what are your favourite Southend memories? You know, because even though we're obviously in your National League, we're National League South, you know, Southend have really had a lot of good years in their history, haven't they?
Yeah, we have. So starting off when I was really young, we sort of got promotion in the first season and went into what is now the championship for about 5 or 6 years. And I guess because I was so young, I just kind of thought that that was Southend and that was the way it was always going to be. But after that, we sort of had the back-to-back relegations, and I began to understand what it was to be a Southend fan. I used to joke to my dad that I was going to call Esther Ransom and Childline because it was a child cruelty that he'd made me a shrimp of. But yeah, there've been a lot of good times really, and I think the best is the shirt behind me would be when we won promotion at Wembley in 2015. We'd missed out an automatic promotion on the last game of the season away at Morecambe, and that journey home was probably the most miserable I've had in football. I always tend to eat more when we've lost. I don't know. It's probably not psychologically good. And I think I probably put on a stone after that journey home because it was so depressing, and it seemed to take forever. And it seemed that we'd thrown away the chance of promotion. But to bounce back from that and then to come back at Wembley and the way that the team did it as well in such dramatic circumstances, and then winning on penalties, I don't think that'll ever be beaten, really. That was just an incredible emotion. You thought you'd lost, then you didn't know, then you'd won. And yeah, so to go up that way, but we've had some sort of other promotions. We've had trips to Wembley, we've had trips to Cardiff, we've had sort of other promotion success, beat Man United, drew at Chelsea, played Tottenham. So we have been quite fortunate, but all of that seems a long way away and a long time ago to put my teeth in after what we've been through more recently. But I'm just glad that we're still here. And talking about sort of favourite moments, actually the club being saved in more recent times would be right up there, because that was a day that many of us, and myself included, feared that wasn't going to happen. So although there wasn't that sort of moment of euphoria on a pitch and you're celebrating a goal or a victory, that was probably right up there with the best moments that we've had, and seeing everyone smiling. And we did a photo shoot in the pub with champagne and that kind of thing. And that was a special feeling, because that's the thing with a lower league club, isn't it? It's cheesy, but you are all part of a big family. You all know each other, even if it's just a nod and you don't actually know their name. Right? Yeah. There's not so many fans, so we all know each other, and you feel genuinely part of it. And we'd all been through an awful tough time together. So to come out the other side and to know that every Saturday we still had a team to support, that was up there as well with the good times following the crazy world of Southend United.
We were delighted for you as well, because obviously similar experience here. I mean, we went through it at the speed of light, really. You know, the announcement in February that Clark Osborne was on his way, and it was actually sorted by June, but that felt like a long 4 months, and it was after a dreadful few years as well. So yeah, congratulations. We're absolutely delighted that the Shrimpers are back up and running.
Yeah, thank you. That's been the nice thing, actually, because I think I might be wrong, but I always think of fans of lower league clubs as proper football fans. I always say that to my friends who clap at the telly and support their Premier League teams. But I think that you understand football a little bit more. It's what it means, and I think the support that we've had from other clubs, York in particular, Wrexham, and the well wishes that we've had from a lot of clubs, Scunthorpe as well, that have gone through similar experiences. And I think we all understand that it's such a huge part of our community and how much it means of our life. So yeah, the support that we've had from a lot of other clubs means an awful lot. And I'm sure now that if any other clubs, heaven forbid, go through something similar, then Southend will be more than willing to do whatever they can to support. So yeah, thanks for your kind words and for football in general, really, because it has meant a lot to know that it wasn't just us that were sort of suffering. There were other people aware of it, and everyone genuinely cared and wanted the best, because I think the last thing that we all wanted to see was another Bury or another club dying, because I think that affects all of us, really, because as true football fans, we know what it means.
Yeah, I agree. You don't know what it's like until you're going through it. Like a lot of things, it's ridiculous, really, but also really united that community, as you say we did with you. So without going too much into, or as much as you want to, what actually happened? Because from Talkie's point of view, it was all about an owner who wasn't really a football person and all that, and we made a rule that we don't talk about that much anymore. And then it all was just a not very nice regime, and for like people like ourselves, kind of in some sort of media sort of format, you're always thinking what you're saying, and you're looking at clubs, you know, sort of YouTube channels and journalists getting banned and all that sort of thing, and you're like, right, I'm ready for an email any day. That's why that's really careful. But what was it like, and what was sort of the problems, and how long could you see this coming for at Southend?
It was a very complicated situation, so I'll try and sum it up in the shortest way possible without you having to extend this episode to like a second part or something and everyone's turn off and me droning on. So basically it came down to the fact that the chairman who was previously in charge was struggling to find the money to enable that to continue. But it wasn't just a simple transaction in terms of it just being the football club, because he had plans to transfer the club from Roots Hall to Fossett's Farm, which if I open the window, you'd be able to see pretty much. So that was all part of his master plan. So when he wanted to sell, that basically was a lot of the complications revolved around the land issue. So as it ultimately transpired, the consortium wanted to stay at Roots Hall, which is what the fans wanted all along, to be honest. It's the spiritual home of the football club.
Love and love it.
Yeah, it's falling down a bit, but it's you know, you don't want to go to a soulless bowl with lots of concrete, with all these stadiums that are now the same with different colour seats. So it needed to get sorted out that basically the houses, because Roots Hall was going to get knocked down and there was going to be houses built there which were going to help fund the project. So
we had all this, very similar.
What was happening instead is that where the stadium was going to be at Fossett's Farm, the houses that were at Roots Hall were then going to be onto the stadium. So that's a long story. I could go into it an awful lot more, but I'll try and keep it as simple as I can. But it just went on and on and on, and the chairman was reluctant to let it go. And just as you thought it was done, it wasn't, and you thought it couldn't get any worse, and then it did. And then the National League came out with this bond, and there were so many times when you just thought, you know what, this is it. There's not going to be a Southend anymore. And we had so many winding up petitions. It was ridiculous. Yeah, and the joke was that HMRC became our most played opponent, and you almost have to have that gallows humour, don't you? Because if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. And we had a few games in particular that stick out. But I think the worst moment for me was being in court. And it was for the winding up petition, but other companies stood up and said that they were owed sort of significant amounts of money as well. And you could see the judge visibly mulling over what to do with Southend United. And he sort of did this thing where he sort of tilted his head, and you were like, oh my God. And I'd taken my dad with me just because I'm about 12 really and needed some support because I was worried. So he came with me, and there was members of the Shrimpers Trust. And ultimately the judge said, like, because you're a football club and with the attachment of your fans, I'll let you continue. But make no mistake, if it wasn't for that, I would be winding you up today. And it was such a bizarre situation. When we came out afterwards, you know, like when you go on a really scary roller coaster and you come off it and no one really speaks for a few minutes. They're all just like, oh. And it was like that. Everyone was just in this like stunned silence of how close we were to just not having a football club. And it got delayed. So we were up on the first one, then it got put back. So I remember just sitting there thinking, well, what do you do if there's no Southend Day?
Yeah, we all thought this as well. You
I
do
have
go
to get another
Phoenix.
job, like,
Yeah, yes.
Of course.
what do you do on Boxing Day? What do you do on Boxing Day if you don't go and watch Southend?
No, this is a thing.
It's just all these things. Yeah, so thankfully, those days are, touch wood, beyond us now. I'm very confident that they are, and we've got the right people in charge now. But when you're so engrossed in it, you don't really take a step back and sort of fully appreciate just how much went on and just how much you had to do. It's only now I look back now and think this has been a crazy couple of years. And without, I'm not playing the violin because it's my fault, but I had 2 days off in 2 years because of how busy it's been covering Southend United. And even when I tried and was trying to watch tennis in the summer, it was all getting busier and busier. And it's just been, it's just been ridiculous, really. Everyone always says I should write a book, but I don't think I have time, and I don't think anyone would believe. No one would believe. But we didn't even have water at the training ground. Like, there's so many things that just got worse and worse and worse. People weren't getting paid. There was transfer embargoes. We had games with one subs. The youth team went on strike. It was just horrific to watch. And it's a club that means so much to so many people. Yeah, it was just disgusting, really.
This is where football's got such a big problem in it, because you're totally reliant on the owners, aren't you? And if they mess it up or lose interest or run out of money or whatever it might be, there's so many people. The milkman doesn't get paid. Everybody's worried about whether there's going to be a club, and it's just. I mean, our supporters trust is. Now heavily involved in the club. We've raised, I don't know if you've seen, but we've raised £140,000 in a couple of weeks to buy a second seat on the board, and along with that comes sort of heritage rights. So nobody's ever allowed to move us unless the trust agrees it and stuff like that. So incredibly positive outcome, but. Most football clubs, they're just totally. It's almost hand to mouth, isn't it? What owner are you going to get, and what are their intentions?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, so that's fantastic to hear. And I've just remembered myself. Actually, I was thinking back to sort of Torquay, and I think at one point I remember going to Torquay, and the program seller said, "Get your program now. Southend's last ever game." And I was thinking, "Oh my god!"
I remember that. Yeah.
That was it, but it would have been. I think the court case was after that week. So I'm glad that to hear that it's positive for you, but it needs more of that, doesn't it? That it's such a huge part of the community, and like you said, it's. Everybody's involved. When I look at Southend, so the fish and chip shop would have gone, the 2 pubs and 3 pubs would have gone, all the businesses around the ground, which rely massively on match day income. It really would have affected a hell of a lot of people. And we don't have many other clubs near us at all. And the support that Southend get and continue to get through the toughest of times was just incredible, really. They were the heartbeat that kept everything going and gave everything a purpose, even when it looks like there may not be one anymore. So for them to get that close to not having a football club is not right. And
no, it's wicked. It's wicked.
And we did a lot of stories about it. And I remember an ex-player saying, it's all well and good having these fit and proper owners tests, but why do you only... Yeah, exactly. And why
do you fail one? And Massimo Cellino passed his, didn't he?
Yeah. And why do you only do them once? Why? Because you can have an owner whose circumstances change, and you can have an owner that's at a club for 10, 20 years, but their financial situation is completely different to what it was when they came to the club. So I'd like to see a situation whereby these clubs and the owners do have to have these tests more regularly, and they're more stringent as well, because what Southend went through, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and I really don't want anyone else, genuinely don't want any other club to ever have to go through that, because I know what it means, and something does need to be done. I appreciate that it's difficult.
I think certainly in Germany there's like a licensing system. So basically your club's got to get that license to be allowed to play in whatever Bundesliga division it is. And I mean, that would concentrate minds, wouldn't it? And that's the sort of thing that's needed.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know what's going to come of this regulation bill. I'm slightly dubious that it'll have the teeth it needs, really. But better than nothing for sure.
How did the players and the staff during that time? How, obviously, because you're very close to it, how do they motivate, and what was the atmosphere like for them, and how much credit do you go to certain individuals in the club at the time?
That was fantastic, because it could easily have gone one of two ways. It could have easily gone, oh, what's the point of this? This club's a mess. Why do I want to be here? I'm going to go somewhere else. But thankfully, and it should never be forgotten what these players did, they really rallied. They kept going, and they almost developed this siege mentality, which is a bit strange, really, when it's seemingly against the person in control of the football club. But it really did. It really did sort of galvanize everybody and got this real sort of fighting spirit together, which was incredible. Like I said previously, we had times where we had one sub. We had games with no strikers because of the embargo. We had to have like a midfielder and a defender up front, and you take everything out of the equation. If you take the points deduction away, Southend would have got in the playoffs last season, which is a ridiculous achievement.
Ridiculous.
The way the players stuck in, and the way that the manager, Kevin Mayer, he was brilliant. So through the toughest of times, you had the fans, and you had the chief executive, and you had the manager, Kevin Mayer, and they were very much the glue that stuck everything together. If Kev had walked away, I think a lot of the players would have walked away, and I think the fans could easily have lost hope as well. But the support was brilliant, and the way that Kevin sort of managed everything was just beyond words, really. Everything that he went through, I don't know how he did. You're talking about the mental strain that he would have been under, and everything that he had to somehow get through. And the sad thing is in football is the people that make the mistakes high up are very hard to necessarily get hold of. And I know this because I tried on several occasions, but you know that every Saturday and every Thursday, as it is for Southend, you're going to be talking to the manager. So when people haven't got paid, when you haven't got, when you've got transfer embargoes, when you've got all these issues going on, every week it's the manager that has to front up and talk about it. And 9 times out of 10, he probably can't say what he wants to say.
Yeah.
Still, won't he? So I had huge admiration for the way that he handled the situation. Very, very professional, and the staff around him and the players. And I think they've got to be right up there in terms of achievements of what Southend have ever achieved. It wasn't a promotion.
Stuff of legends.
Yeah, it's incredible, really. Beating Chesterfield at home with a couple of subs, and everything was just fantastic. But it was all down to that fighting spirit and being galvanised by everything seemed to be against them. And it's tough now, because you kind of like, well, how do you keep that going when
I was asking my next question, really, because with Talkie it's a little bit different, where I think we've had it's almost like it's coming up, you come out of a bad relationship with a football club, isn't it? And every little good thing is like, your fans like, wow, that's incredible. I think that's up on at Torquay. It's very much like just little things. It can be like a chairman caring about a result. Just so many little things. Chairman standing out and meeting people and taking ideas, going to
we got a scoreboard that works now, and honestly, you think like it was this world. We were like, wow, and the clock got mended. It hadn't been working for years, and we got a new sign outside that didn't have letters falling off it. And one of my friends lives in Basildon, which is about 25 minutes up the road. He just drove down to see this site. And you do realise how bad that you've had it when you're getting excited about this, which is good, to be fair. But normally it would just be like, oh, right, there's a sign on the wall.
That's funny you say that, because I kind of saw Southend fans going through what we did just 3 or 4 weeks later. And it's like, they've got the new sign. They've got the new clock. They're getting excited about that. We had that 3 weeks ago.
We were talking about it last night, Sam, weren't we? About like it just gives you a bit of a pride in the place again, doesn't it? Quite a few people were they called it Paint Up Plainmoor over the summer, and that was the Supporters Trust organised that. So we're there middle of summer, scrubbing the steps, painting the steps. It's just great, because
we did that as well.
It's a community thing, isn't it? And you've got that little bit more of a stake in the club, and and it's massively appreciated as well. So
yeah, I think you said previously, sometimes you know how much your club means, but you perhaps, it's a cliche, but you don't know how much something means until it's not nearly there anymore.
too true.
And I think a lot of people have got involved in the club, and I think a problem that we had is a lot of bridges had been burned by the. I'll be careful how I word this, but by the way certain people had behaved. So a lot of businesses wouldn't touch Southend anymore because of the way that they'd been treated. And
Yeah,
same with,
talking about that as well at the start.
yeah. Whereas now we've got, fans painting the club shop, and
Yeah.
it really does make a big difference. So it's back to what it should be, and hopefully this is the start now of a more successful period and a more sort of professional, sustainable model of a football club. That's what we want. Southend and Torquay, we know what we signed up for.
Yeah.
We're not.
We're not there for glory.
But you're a big club, aren't you? In the National League, you're a big club, and we've got rid of all the financial doping now, haven't we? We got rid of the Wrexhams and the Notts Counties and the Stockports. I mean, you should be back in the league in a couple of years. I would have thought.
Yeah, you would hope so. It's a tough division, isn't it? People know.
Yeah, it's got harder, isn't it?
That's the thing. It is hard to get out of, and this year I think we've already lost a couple of key players, and the squad's not the biggest, so it's a tough time again. But we've gone through a lot worse, so I'm sure we will get through this as well, and be pushing for the playoffs. Hopefully, come the end of the season. And the nice thing is that we can sort of long-term plan as well, and start thinking about just football, whereas before that was, you end up covering all kinds of things that you think, I don't want to be doing this. I didn't sign up for this. And if I ever have to write due diligence again, I'm going to go mad. I was sort of like having to write it every single day. I was like, oh man. So it's just nice to be. And the good thing as well is I think that we got into a situation where it was almost anyone but wrong. But you do have to be careful, because you could end up with someone else who's not got the interests of the football club at heart. And the group that we've put together, Justin's very, very enthusiastic, a huge football fan, and he's joined on the board by a lot of local businesses and a lot of people that have grown up supporting Southend and understand what it means
to the community. Nice stuff.
So we have got the right people. They're not multi-millionaires who are going to do a Wrexham or anything like that, but that's fine. We don't expect that. It's just run sensibly and to ensure that future generations can also be tortured by grown-up by their dad fans.
That's what it's all about.
I totally agree.
Can I ask just a quick question, going back to the bad days, or more when the deal got over the line? Was the involvement of the council important at the end of that?
Yes. So that was to do with the land as well, and the property deals and the stadium and everything like that. So there was a situation, again, kind of long story short, where the council changed, the leader of the council changed, and Daniel Cowan came in, and he did a great job. He was very influential in getting things done and sort of issuing ultimatums to Martin and his family. And he was quite strong and quite stern when he needed to be, and very much played a part in getting the deal over the line. So in the list of people that do deserve credit for saving Southend, I would definitely say that he deserves credit for that. And that's just, I have no interest in politics or anything like that. So he's just sort of genuinely say it as you see it, and he did a really good job for me. So yeah, he definitely deserves praise. And he's somewhere, it's weird because going through all these situations, you talk to these people quite a lot, and then it gets solved and you think, oh, I don't have reason to talk to them anymore.
No,
so it's kind of the way things quickly move on. But he did a good job in very, very difficult circumstances, because he's trying to balance the future of the football club with the future of the city. And there were times where the situation was that the flats that were being built, if they didn't get sold, the council was going to have to pay for the rent and things like that. So there were risks that were being taken without going into all the boring details. But he got to the gist of it, and he did a good job. And he's a really nice guy as well. To be fair, he's been at a few games so far this season. I've seen him, so he genuinely cares for the football club, and he's done well. So yeah, you are right. The council towards the end did play a big part in finally getting over the line, and it needed to, because the National League, basically they became the point where the National League issued a few different things, and it had to get done. And I think the league did it as a bit of a power play to try and quicken up the deal. If I'm being honest, I don't know that definitely, but that's just my opinion. And that kind of changed the way the deal was structured a little bit, and it all got done quite quickly. I say quite quickly now. I didn't see it at the time, but yeah, it's been very, very, very stressful, and I dread to think how many stories I've had to write.
I agree.
And so Ron Martin was obviously the kingpin in all of this, really. And I understand, of course, that you're not going to want to say anything defamatory or anything like that. And it is a guy who's been involved with the football club for a long time. But what's the Southend people's view of Ron Martin at the moment?
He's obviously not very popular, because the way that everything transpired towards the end. I think that for me, I think it's difficult, isn't it? He should have gone a lot. He should have gone a lot sooner. And pretty much the last time that I spoke to him properly, I said that to him, and he was worried that if he went, then it could affect the future of the club, and that he felt it was his duty to help the football club succeed. But I think ultimately it was tough for him financially, and I think that he probably should have maybe moved on. I think one of the biggest mistakes he made, and I said that to him, is that he went far too long without a chief executive, and he tried to do too much on his own. I think he saw it as a way of saving money, but I think ultimately it would have cost him more money, because he couldn't do everything that was needed in terms of on the field and off the field. And I think things on the field became a little bit, I don't quite think he had his eye on the ball as much as he would have done sort of previously. So things improved definitely when Tom Lawrence came in as the chief executive, but I think the mistake was not employing somebody in that position earlier. And that's me just being honest and talking openly about things. Obviously, he's not very popular at all, but there's no point sort of screaming and shouting and swearing about these things. That's in the past now. He was at the football club. Was at the football club for a long time. He was there during some good times that we previously mentioned as well. But towards the end, it went a bit sour, and there was a bad taste with how people were treated and how people went so long without being paid, and that kind of situation. It was very, very hard to watch. And the thing is, you automatically think of the players, but I've got really good friends that work for the football club in various capacities, and when you see what they go through as a result of not being paid, and it's Christmas and they've got children and they're trying to support their families, and these are people that are not getting paid very much at all. So I mean, I'd struggle without being paid a week late. So it's heartbreaking to see what they went through. But yeah, there were quite a lot of protests for quite a long time of people sort of trying to get Ron Martin out of the football club. There were various things during games with sort of tennis balls, which everyone thought was me because I'm a big tennis fan, but it wasn't genuinely, because they were rubbish tennis balls as well. You couldn't play tennis with them. I did investigate because I thought, I could do quite well here, but yeah, they weren't really tennis balls that you could play tennis with, and plastic rats being thrown onto the pitch, and endless sort of protests with fans outside his house, and thousands of fans marching through the high street before one of the games. So there was a lot going on, and people were within their rights, and rightly so. They'd seen the way that the club had been handled, and it was being run into the ground, and it means so much to them that they were sort of showing their passion that they've had. And I always say it was done respectfully. I don't think I ever saw anything out of hand. I was at every single one of those protests, and I don't think I ever saw anybody really going above what I felt was fair. They just care for their football club, and it's tough because you want to show it and you don't know how. So, and they were trying to do that and get it out there. So they did that, and they played their part as well. So the Southend fans have been brilliant throughout this. But yeah, Ron Martin isn't particularly popular among those supporters.
Yeah,
no, that's great. I mean, from your point of view, before we just go, we'll end on like where Southampton are going now, because it's quite interesting actually, being because we're obviously National League South.
Yeah,
and you could argue in some ways it's a little bit, even though we want to be in the National League, it's we'll get moved to that in a minute. But from your point of view, from a journalist, when you're inside, your livelihood, I guess, is reliant on getting information. I imagine putting yourself in that kind of, I've got to write this, but then I don't want to lose a contact. And how did you deal with that? I imagine that's quite a lot on you, as well as all the emotion of the club.
Yeah, it's been very, very difficult, and for me as well, I'm quite open about mental health issues as
I
well.
read a few bits on you.
I sort of struggle with that, and I think I'm not ashamed of that. I think it's quite important to sort of speak out about these things. So I found it very, very difficult because, as I said, I've been watching Southend since 1989, and it's my team and it's my club, and I'd go every week, whatever job I have. I'll always go and watch Southend. So at various points when you're finding these things out, it's heartbreaking. But because I knew how much it meant, I very much just checked and checked and checked again that it was 100% accurate. Because there were times when you get told that in 48 hours this is happening, and you'd think, oh no, like. But then 24 hours later, that wasn't happening. So
I remember reading, because
it changed so
kept
much.
changing. I remember following your tweets and just like, so I'm going to say everyone will be like, and then it's like, oh no, they're not.
So it is a tough balance, but I just saw myself, right, this is my job, and whatever I do is the truth. And I always say, whatever I write in the paper would be whatever I would say to that person. So I'm never abusive. I never go beyond being professional, I would like to think. But I care an awful lot. So I know what it means and what it makes fans feel like, because I'm feeling exactly that way too. And I just wanted to do whatever I could do to try and just get it out there and write every single story that I could possibly do. Go to every court case, go to every protest, every match, speak to all the fans involved, and just getting it out there. And I think it is hard sometimes, but you have to listen and trust to the right people, because there were times when I got people trying to give me tips that necessarily turned out not to be true. And that wouldn't have helped anybody if I'd gone with those situations. So again, you just check and check and check again that everything that you're writing is 100% accurate. And it got to the point where, without being horrible, it didn't really matter what anybody else thought, because this was such a serious situation that it had to get out there. And there might not be a club, so it didn't really matter if I got banned or anything like that, because if I don't do this, there might not be a club come the start of the season anyway. And I just sort of saw it as my duty as the local reporter to do everything that I could. And it was hard mentally. That was probably the most difficult thing, because it was very much, again, as part of the job, so it is what it is, and I could have worked elsewhere if I wanted to, so it's my fault as well. But you're very much sort of working 24/7. You're working
purpose, isn't it? It's a purposeful thing.
Someone's
got to do it at the end of the day, because I think that's where Talkie Talk, we made sure that we obviously aren't a media journalist at all. We're just a fan channel. But I think over the period, and we were quick to call out things when they had to be done, but never in a personal way. You never do it in a personal way. But as you say, you do it like they're watching. You do it like that. And it also wasn't getting sucked into sort of games, because I think when it's someone's livelihood, from like a media journalist point of view, I've seen it with some examples in other clubs and all that stuff, where they're almost like writing what maybe the owners want to do, and those owners will get in and tell the local journalists what they want to say, and then it comes across, and then the fans go no, and then you lose that reputation. So I think the
Yeah.
way you handled everything and balanced it was incredible from an outsider's point of view.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I've had that, and you said, "Oh, you should do this." Like
Mm,
and it said, "Well, if I did that, I'll wait for the club. Well, what's the point of me if I just,
yeah,
there's no point if I just wait for this and do this." So I'm just, like I said, I'm always very honest, right? My view doesn't. I'm not in terms of opinions on certain matters. Obviously, with the future of the club, that was different because a lot of that was factual. But when it comes to opinions, I always say my opinion's no more brand than yours or,
of course,
or anyone in the pub.
Same with us,
Mine
really,
goes on paper and yours doesn't, and that's why we all love football, because we can watch the same game and we all choose a different man of the match and all give different marks out of 10 and whatnot. But I think the last sort of 2 years, and I think it's only really now I've come out of it, hopefully, and it's a lot more relaxed. It's when I look back now and I think, oh wow, do you know what? I did do quite a lot. I did do ridiculous amounts, and but you don't think of it at the time because you just go from one story to the next, and this happens, then that breaks, and then you've got this game, and then you go in there and you've got this court case, and then this person's owed money, and then they're not training, and there's so much going on, and there wasn't any time to really think. There was barely time to wash, so there wasn't there wasn't much time to really think about anything else. But I'd do it all again tomorrow if it meant trying to save Southend, because that's how much it sort of means to me, and it means to everybody in our area. Really, that's exactly the same as Torquay means for you, and that's the beauty of these football clubs. It annoys me, probably the same as you. Oh, do you support a proper club? And you get talked down to, don't you, when you follow a lower league club? But it shouldn't.
I talk down to them. Don't worry.
I've always found though, you go around the country, and when you say where you're from, firstly, everybody's been on holiday down here, and they always have nice things to say.
My team won there.
So that's brilliant. And also, you're not a threat to anybody, so you can go and talk to Leicester fans or Newcastle fans.
I always find like it's a conversation stopper, isn't it? I was having this conversation. Like, all right, mate, who do you support? It's like Southend. It's like, oh, right, yeah. They don't know. I didn't Collingwood play for you once, so wasn't Ronnie Wheeler manager there or that kind of thing? So,
Freddie Eastwood.
Yeah, that's. I suppose you've got the dog, haven't you? That's what Torquay is for, isn't it?
Yeah, we get the dog story.
Oh, the police dog bit the right back on the thigh, and we scored the crucial goal in the injury time.
Helen Chamberlain, yeah. So I'm just going forwards because it's quite interesting. Compare the two clubs, Torquay, Southend. So obviously, Torquay want to be in the National League to the Football League. We all do. That's all the dream. But in some ways, we take the financial aspect away from it. But do you find, because National Leagues, it's a tough league. Like, I find National League, it's very consistent. Like, it doesn't take loads once you're at that consistency to make the step up to be one of the top teams. But then, as Bournemouth found out, they've been near the top for ages. One off season, they're down in the south. It's a lot easier to get relegated than it used to be, but even 4 or 5 years ago. So Southend going forward, you've had all the joy of getting a club, but it's a tough job to sort of, now you haven't got as much of a siege mentality. It's trying to move it forward. Whereas Torquay in the National League South, and we have that, but we are playing a step lower in the feel-good factor. Naturally, you think you're going to win more games. So, how do you reckon it's going to? How has it been like in the first few games of the National League? Because it's 16th. It's not a disastrous start or anything. But what are the kind of aims around the club right now?
Yeah, I think expectations were high this season, and I think you should have looked at it. And like I said previously, we would have been in the playoffs last season without the points deduction. So I think if you think, right, okay, let's get a couple of signings in, and we can really go for it. But this is Southend, so it's never straightforward. We've lost Harry Cardwell, who was our best striker. We've got 3 key players, 3 players out injured. Ollie Kensdale's unavailable due to something that's sort of happened away from the field, and it's been difficult. So there hasn't really been that settled side yet. The team got stuck on the train on Saturday and didn't make it to the match as well. So it never rains, but it pours and whatnot. So yeah, we got filed away on the Tuesday night coming soon. So that'll be a nice one. Yeah, see you there for that one. Yeah. It's been. it's been tough, and they desperately need reinforcements. We've only got one fit striker at the moment, and we haven't seen him in action yet. He's come in on loan. He's a youngster who's from Luton Town for the season, so you can't expect him to sort of carry everything and sort of lead the line so early on in his career and be the forefront of what we're trying to do going forward. So I think a lot of it will depend on the movement in the transfer market. Southend desperately need 2 strikers, if not 3, really, to have someone at the end of the approach play that they're doing. So it's sort of been a bit stop-start so far. It hasn't really got going. There's been a few draws, a win, and a defeat, and it feels like a long time since we played now, following the postponement at the weekend. So it's been a bit sort of on and off really so far. Haven't
slow
really
burner. I think my prediction for Torquay was a slow burner, which right now it's not actually turning out to be. Thankfully, it's even better than that. But I think with Southend, they'll probably pick up quite well from what I'm hearing in the market. When in like October, so when you got the Football League players who didn't get the League Two club, maybe they're after, and then they're free agent, and then non-league clubs can come in, and they'll look at Southend and think, yeah, it's a great club to play. But like Torquay, it's players probably like more than we realise being part of a fallen giant rebuild story, because they get remembered then, don't they? And you can see that with Talkie.
Yeah, and I think the Southend, I mean, we've had 8,000 fans at the home game this season, and I think the players wouldn't have been used to that. They're sort of coming out, they'd be coming out of these clubs. Some of them would be sort of youngsters, and so coming along to Southend and playing in front of crowds like this would be a huge buzz for them. The support away from home is incredible as well. So yeah, you're right, and I think it's important for them. It works both ways. I think a lot of these players need to go out and play first team football rather than just sort of the tippy-tappy style of the 21s football, perhaps not quite as good. I haven't seen that level much, but you would have thought that coming out and playing for the likes of Southend and Torquay, where there's so much at stake and the support and a real buzz and things like that, will be much better for their development. So it's a win-win all round, I think. But it's tough, isn't it? You've got to get the right ones. You've got
to get the right mentalities and that. Yeah.
Very much so, because a lot of it is off the field as well, isn't it? Because if you're at a Premier League club, you're getting everything done for you.
Yeah.
And speaking to people in the game recently, there's a lot of worry really that I don't. It's probably not the right way to describe it, but players are coming out of that environment and they're a bit too soft. They're not ready for men's football.
Well, I've seen it in my own eyes. We've seen it in our own eyes. They can't.
We absolutely
very fragile last year.
We absolutely have. Yeah. So you got to be careful. It's very hit and miss really when you're getting loans like that. They're not all gonna do it for you, so it's difficult. Where I think we've been lucky. Obviously, we're starting at a very low base, but we've been. Our manager has been in this division for 10 years, probably.
And Southwest based.
Yeah, and he's got players in that he knows, and he knows they can do it at this level. So we haven't got like 36-year-olds and 18-year-olds. We've got a lot of lads in their 20s who've got good experience. And if a club can recruit like that, it's possibly a better way to go at the moment.
Yeah, because we've got that as well. We've obviously got John Steele as our sort of head of football, so he knows the national league better than most.
Nice.
So he's
absolutely
he's able to sort of work his magic again now after not being able to sign anyone for 18 months or however long it was. So yeah, it's important. It's huge, isn't it? We've had that in the past where we've tried to get players almost on the way down and it hasn't quite worked out. So you need a mix, don't you? You do need that experience and that know-how and those that can help those around them, especially when times are tough. But Southend have done well bringing up the sort of young, hungry players, someone like Gus Scott-Morris, who's been fantastic coming in from the league you're in. And he's been
There's a lot of talent in the south and below, isn't there? There's a lot of talent. It's nice to see clubs like we've done it a bit as well. It's nice to see clubs dipping into that market now. I think maybe clubs are starting to go more that way rather than look upwards. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see the pyramid really supporting each other. But that's amazing. I mean, if you've got anything else to add, but wow, thank you so much for coming on, Chris. I mean, I hope Southend continues to improve, and well done for all your good work. Obviously from afar we've watched it, but great journalism, and I hope it gets better for you all now.
Thank you. I'm glad it wasn't just my mum who was reading it, so I appreciate that.
No, pleasure to meet you, Chris. And
let's
let's hope we're in the same division next year, and I can buy you a beer if you want.
With respect, we hope to not be, but
Yeah.
Of course, yes.
we'll see you at a game soon. Definitely, I do like going to
Opening
Torquay.
game of League Two in a few years. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. We can swap boots and laces, mutual stories, and it can be a win-win for us both. Definitely.
There we go. We've heard it here
Cool.
first, everyone. So there we go. Thank you so much, Chris. And
Cheers, Chris.
thank you for watching, everyone, and listening. And we'll see you soon.